Ka pai. All right, sorry we're a few minutes late, whānau. We just had to sort out some issues with our closed captioning, and I think we're all good today, all good to go. Tēnā rā koutou katoa, kōrehi te manu tākiri ko te ata, a tihei mauri ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai haere mai ki tēnei hui. I'm coming live to you from Wainui o Mata, and very happy to be here. It's a lovely rainy day. Which is beautiful. Ko wai au, ko te aroa toku iwi, no Rotorua ahau, ko ngā pera Riley toku ingoa, and ko au te kai whakahaere o Figure.NZ. So my name's Ngā Pera Riley. I'm born and raised in the metropolis of Rotorua, and from the iwi of Aotearoa. Today I'm the CEO of Figure.NZ, and we're a charitable trust for those of you who may not know who we are. And we are dedicated to building technology that helps people find and use data in Aotearoa. I like to refer to our little team as ethical technologists, because we really do try to put people at the centre of data. And we've been working really hard at this for 10 years now to try and make New Zealand's public data more accessible for everybody. So we've known that for many years that data is one of the most valuable assets and decision-making tools of the 21st century. It's just one, it's not all of them, it's just one tool. But also with data being such a commercialised commodity, we were really worried as a team that only people with money or only those who are highly educated would be able to access important data about our country. And we were really concerned that the gaps in our already inequitable society would become wider. So that's why we exist as a charity, to help keep data in the hands of the communities it belongs to. And that's why all of the data and all of the tools that we publish on Figure.NZ is free and it's built to share. So how did we start on this journey? The journey to building Aotearoa disability figures started in 2018, probably with my stubborn insistence that we pilot and build a Māori data hub. And so that took many years actually of publishing and finding Māori data. But 2 years later, when we launched Pātakara, the Māori Data Hub, we received really a lot of requests from many different communities, like our Pacific community, our Rainbow community, and our disabled communities, all asked, hey, this is a great tool. Can you build one for us too? So I immediately said yes, because I felt in my heart that it was just really the right thing to do. But my team, being concerned totally with data quality, they were quite worried. They were worried there wasn't enough data, they were worried there wasn't enough quality data, and they knew that there were major gaps in disability data in Aotearoa. So, that's good. Here's me pushing on one end, and here's them saying, well, hang on a minute, we've got to get this right. If we're going to gift a tool to the community, we need to get it right. So in our small team at Figure.NZ, we're really privileged actually to have many of our kaimahi who are disabled or live with disability. And knowing what we do about the benefits of making public data available and accessible, we really knew we just had to do what we had to do to bring this kaupapa to life. And whilst we recognise that this is only the very, very beginning of this journey, and there's so much more work to do to fulfil our mission of making disability data in Aotearoa fully available and accessible, I believe that our team and their leadership is the reason we've been able to produce this website with such care. So I'm both delighted and humbled to launch this website today with all of you who are joining us here today. Thank you for your time and for giving generously of your time and to tautoko and support this kaupapa. We are gifting Aotearoa disability data figures to the people of Aotearoa because we believe that quality data and access to it is fundamental and a valuable tool for advocacy. And we want to bring about the change that we want to see in the world, in particular in our country. We particularly hope that this will be useful for disabled organisations and the wider disability community in Aotearoa, who already are doing such important mahi. And we really hope that this tool can help make some of that really important mahi that you're doing a little bit easier. And so I'm really excited for you to explore it. And I know many of you already have because we've shared it all weeks ago in the hope that we would get lots of feedback. And we did. So thank you to all of those who given that feedback. So really excited for you to explore it today. But first, I must adhere to a little bit of tikanga, and I do have some special acknowledgements to make. Ko te mea tuatahi ki ngā atua, nāna koutou ngā mea katoa. And so I can't start this hui without thanking the entire team at Tātauranga Aotearoa Stats New Zealand. In particular, Mark Selden, our Chief Government Statistician and the CEO of Stats.NZ. When I rocked up to his office in Wellington and asked if he would consider supporting a disability data project, he just supported it immediately. And in fact, he told us to prioritise it. So that was awesome. And there were many teams in Stats New Zealand that we worked with. And the truth is, without Stats.NZ support, we would never been able to focus on disability data in this way, let alone launch it in the middle of a pandemic. So to our friends, so kia tēnā koutou, ngā kaimahi at Stats.NZ. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also to our friends at Internet New Zealand, kia ora koutou. We've been partners for years and we're working on a common goal of using the internet for good with a focus on communities. So thank you, Internet New Zealand, for our continued support for our mahi. As the CEO, I have the unenviable task of trying to fund these projects. And I knocked on a lot of doors. I spoke with a lot of government agencies and leaders, and I sent out tons of proposals. And despite nearly everybody saying how fundamental disability data was and access to it, Stats New Zealand and Internet in New Zealand were only two organisations in the whole country that put up their hands and the pūtea to make this project happen. So tēnā koutou. To Paula, our Disability Rights Commissioner and a huge advocate of disability data, and the team at the Human Rights Commission, tēnā koutou, thank you for all the incredible work that you do. It's a really hard job in there, and so we really appreciate it. And to all the many hundreds of people, including some of you here online today, who I've reached out to, my whole team has reached out to for guidance and support on this disability data kaupapa, including the Disability Data and Evidence Working Group. Thank you all for taking time to kōrero with us, to give feedback, to share data, and some constructive criticism, which we really appreciate. And most importantly, in fact, the entire reason that we've built this platform, to our wonderful community members of the disabled community and our advocates, Angela Desmarais from DPA, Dr. Huhana Hikima, and all of you leaders who work tirelessly for disability rights in Aotearoa. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou. Everybody who took time to read to talk with us, to share your thoughts, your concerns, your frustrations, and also your aspirations around disability data. Ngā mihi. So I will try not to talk too much, even though it's a Te Aroa gene of mine. So we're māngai nui, we know how to talk. But I just wanted to say there are a lot of extremely smart leaders working in the disability space, data space. And a little bit of a challenge, a bit of a tono to those of you working in government agencies and NGOs, that your role is going to be really crucial in the next 5 years. As the collection of better quality admin data and all the important survey data evolves to ensure the rights and needs of disabled people are at the core of it. There's an impressive amount of work going on across the system to advocate for the better quality collection of quality disability data. And I just want to say we are here to tautoko all of you, and we'd like to publish it as well. Yeah, we felt it was really important as well to have an overview of, the state of disability data in Aotearoa, written by someone who wasn't government and somebody who wasn't in our organisation. So we wanted someone to give an independent and honest overview of the history of disability data. So to Sam Murray and Phoebe Eden-Mann, our fierce disability data advocates, thank you both for agreeing to write that essay on the site. And the hope is many of us here on the the call. We know how hard it is to work in the space and to access disability data, but we wanted something for our non-experts. Here at Figure.NZ, we always focus on how do we get data to the non-experts, because most of the experts can access it. And so thank you, kōrero. We really appreciate it. And to Kira and Jason and the team at Activate Agency, ngā mihi kōrero for the work that you do supporting and advocating in the disability and Indigenous impact space. You've just been lifesavers. Tēnā kōrero. And lastly, to my small but powerful team, we did it. Nat, Rob, Nigel, Anton, Andrea, Carolina, and Meeks. Tēnā koutou. Thank you, my team. Just really adore you all. And to Lillian, the founder of our organisation, tēnā koe. I think you're on the call today. It's been a big job. As you can see, we're a small team of 6, but we do a heck of a lot of work getting millions, data out to millions of people each year. And we know we're only at the start of it. So the future of disability data is in really excellent hands. And we're only able to launch this project today because of decades of effort of people who have gone before us. And we know that it gets exhausting when you're trying to advocate time and time again for things to happen. So we know this is really only the beginning of what we hope is a more inclusive and accessible future, and also an ongoing relationship with ngā hapori haua and ngā hapori whaikaha katoa. So without further ado, let me please hand over to our Chief Statistician, the CEO of Stats.NZ, and our friend, Mark Selden. Tēnā koe, Mark.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Mark Selden, tako anō, ko tumu whakarai ki Tataranga Aotearoa. So I'm Mark Selden, as Ngā Pēra said, I'm Mark Selden, Chief Executive of Stats New Zealand and Government Statistician. And look, can I just say a warm welcome and huge greetings to everybody. And it's a real pleasure to be here today. So I'd like to start by acknowledging Ngā Pēra and her team at Figure New Zealand for the great work. And Paula, I'd like to acknowledge you too for turning up today and championing this work as well. It's a pleasure to see both of you here today and to share a virtual stage with you. So, like I said, I'm hugely proud of being here today to present this new website, the Aotearoa Disability Figures platform, which has been developed in partnership between Figure and Stats New Zealand. Figure have done all the work. To be clear, Figure have done all the work. We have provided a modest amount of funding and some of the data, but Ngā Pēra and her team deserve the full credit for all of the work. And for those of you who don't know, this is part of a broader partnership that we have with Figure.NZ, where we can do what we call microsites like this that can speak to groups of the population that our generic data can't. And so that's part of what Ngā Pēra and her team do so well, is be able to create sites that are accessible for and speak to groups of the population that we necessarily operate up here. So how do we make it work for groups of the population that need specific data about themselves? So as I say, a real pleasure to be here. The data landscape for us is always changing, as you all know, and there are increasingly new ways to collect and share data and statistics. And ensuring that different community groups are represented in that data, can see yourselves in that data, and then have access to that data in a way that you can use, you can see, it's easy for you to use, it's easy for you to understand, to be able to use for your purposes is really, really important for us. We want to see far more organisations that support people with disabilities being able to access quality data to help make informed decisions. And for me, that's about both making sure we've got more data, higher quality data, and that it is more accessible for you to be able to access and use. This is all part of our broader strategy. It's called About Aotearoa for Aotearoa, data that improves lives today and for generations to come. And in that, the key things for me is about ensuring all New Zealanders have access to data so that they can make more informed decisions about their lives. And that's anything from government ministers making decisions about the whole country through to individuals making decisions about themselves and their lives and everyone in between. And so for me, this is a really important part of making sure that a large subgroup of our population, those with disabilities in the disability community, have the right access to the right data when and how you need it. So supporting this platform is one example of how we're putting Aotearoa and the data needs of our country at the centre of everything we do as an organisation. So today's launch is a huge milestone for the disabled community. It's a huge milestone for us, and it's a huge milestone for Figure. And I'm really grateful that we can share this step forward together. So that's all I'm going to say. Once again, I'll just close by saying this wouldn't have been possible without the great minds at Figure New Zealand and all of the effort and work that went into it. So thank you, Peter and the team. And I encourage you all to check out the site and look forward to working with Peter and her team in the future, and look forward to working with the disability community as well to go, well, what's the next step in terms of meeting your data needs. So thank you very much. Great pleasure to be here and enjoy the site.
Tēnā koe, Mark. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now to introduce our Disability Rights Commissioner of Aotearoa, who many of you will know, a Paralympian, a disability data champion, and a wonderful wahine, Paula Tesoriero.
Kia ora ngā pera. E ngā mana, e ngā rei o rangatira mā tēnā koutou katoa, ko Paula Tesoriero, tōku ingoa. My name is Paula Tesoriero, and looking at this screen, I feel very much among friends and part of the disability whānau, part of the data world that I used to spend a lot of time in. And so it's wonderful to be here and to have the opportunity to launch the Aotearoa Disability Data Hub. The kaupapa behind this work has been close to my heart for many years, and it's exciting to see this really come to fruition, something that I believe will greatly contribute to improving access to disability data and therefore hopefully improving outcomes for disabled people in New Zealand. Can I also just acknowledge the huge work of your team, Ngā Pera, and the work of Figure.NZ. Mark, your work, your commitment in this area, and that of Stats.NZ, who have really made this a reality today. Ngā mihi nui. I'd also like to acknowledge the Disability and Data Evidence Working Group, who, for those who are less familiar with their work, it's primarily a group made up of Stats.NZ, the Office of Disability Issues, my team at the Commission, the Disabled People's Organisation Coalition, and a range of other disability organisations. And can I just acknowledge their work in continuing and striving to improve good quality data and evidence around disability in Aotearoa. Can I also acknowledge the many disability champions that I see on this screen, many of whom have contributed to this initiative, and many of the advocates who for decades have really called for better data and evidence. And we are now seeing that come to fruition because of the hard work that has gone on for so many years. For those who don't know this, I was fortunate enough to spend some time at Stats.NZ, nearly a couple of years, I think, before coming to this role. And it was through that experience that my knowledge and understanding of data and evidence really increased. And also, very importantly, the connections I made in that world and the friendships that I made and have retained have been incredibly important in my ongoing advocacy in this area. So I do want to particularly acknowledge and thank Vince Galvin, the Chief Methodologist at Stats.NZ, who continues to push me and I continue to push him in his focus on disability. And you too, Mark, for your leadership and our various discussions over the years on the importance of disability data. So thank you. Data is the foundation of change. We need it desperately to understand our disability population, because if we don't understand it, it's harder to make the change that we all know needs to happen. I'm talking to mostly a converted audience, I think, when I say that we follow the social model of disability here in Aotearoa, which basically says I'm disabled because of the societal barriers that exclude us as disabled people, rather than the individual impairment. And that focuses our minds on the collective responsibility that we all have to remove those barriers. But of course, without knowing the full extent of those barriers or the impact of them, we can't create or expect decision makers to create the right solutions. Disability data from Stats.NZ already tells us that half of disabled people under the age of 65 are working. Disabled people are also paid less and are more likely to rate their job security poorly. We know that our community are overrepresented in stats on violence and abuse, overrepresented in the youth justice system and care and protection systems. We also know the disability population is behind other population groups in Aotearoa, faring poorly across a number of well-being indicators such as health, feelings of security and loneliness, and a range of other indicators. These are, of course, alarming stats, but what I always remind people of is just how good it is that we actually understand this information far more than we used to. Without having these stats, we can't change those outcomes. We need quality data, we need access to data, and we need to make sure that when people have that data, they act on it. We know there hasn't been, in recent years, or until recent years, we haven't had much of a focus on disability data. And it's fantastic to see that in recent years, that really has changed. As Stats.NZ work towards the 2023 disability survey, the first national disability survey since 2013, this is great because, you know, we're all getting a bit tired of relying on 2013 data. But as you work towards this, and review the content of the survey with input from those with a real interest in this area. I hope that that survey, I'm confident that that survey with the input from the community will ensure that we can meet our data needs. This work is a huge progress towards the quality of data that we need in our future. The better and the more data we have, the harder it is for our issues to be ignored. We also need to ensure that not only do we collect and produce quality data and evidence, but it has to be available, it has to be accessible for people. And that's why I've always really liked the mission of Figure.NZ to make data available to everyone in Aotearoa. The Aotearoa Disability Data Hub aims to help disabled people in Aotearoa access data and develop data skills to support their work. One of the things that I often hear in the community is that there's research and data collected about us, but that often actually we don't have access to it. And it's really important that disabled leaders, researchers, NGOs, community groups have access to this data, and that's why I'm really excited about this launch. Creating the platform that Figure.NZ and Stats.NZ have created allows us to take action on these really important, fundamentally human rights issues. In Aotearoa and across the globe, we know in our community we deal with a fair amount of ableism, and whether consciously or unconsciously. It's obvious from the employment and other stats just how urgent it is for us to make change, and data and evidence helps support that change. It took me a long time, I think, to fully recognise and understand that data and evidence really speaks to decision makers. It really speaks to them. And so launches of websites like this and greater access to disability data cannot be overstated in terms of its importance. It's so important for us to continue working together on improving the outcomes for disabled people. So I'm really, really happy to be part of this celebration. And I'm really proud of the fact that we, as a disability community, will be able to see ourselves in more of the data and feel seen, heard, and understood. The potential that this hub has for improving the outcomes for disabled people, along with other initiatives that are underway, hopefully will make a real impact. Thank you again to those involved in the creation of this platform. Ngā Pēra, I love your energy, your passion, and that of your team. Thank you to StatsNZ and to everyone who's had input into this. I'd like to leave you with a closing whakatauki. Iorea te tutara, ka pātu ki waho. Our problem is solved by continuing to find solutions. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Paula. Ngā mihi kia koe. Thank you so much. That was pretty inspirational. Now I'm going to just hand you over to introduce Nat Dudley, who many of you probably also know. She's really been the driving force behind this project from Figure.NZ. She's not only our Chief Product and Design Officer, she is also a Fierce Disability and Accessibility Advocate, and one of the most intelligent people I have ever worked with. So, nō reira, tēnā koutou, over to you, Nat.
Kia ora, thanks, Ngā Pēra. I'm Nat Dudley tōku ingoa. So as Ngā Pēra mentioned, I'm Figure.NZ's Chief Design and Product Officer, and I've also served as the lead developer on this project. As Ngā Pēra also mentioned, I'm a member of the disabled community myself, so I have lived experience with neurodivergence and also with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So for me personally, this is such important mahi to see my community and our community get more access to important information to support the mahi and the stories that are being told and worked on to improve and advocate for the future of our community and our country. So I'm super excited to be here today and to be able to demonstrate the site for you. So the site is disability.figure.nz. It's free for everybody to use, and everybody can download and take any of the data that's on the site or any of the charts, use them in your reports and presentation at any time. There's absolutely no barriers to use in that regard. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll do my best to provide a brief visual description as we go through in case we have anyone who is low vision or blind who is joining us today. All right, I think we're good to go. So this is disability figures. So the site opens with a banner that's introducing the site, which tells you that you can find data for and about disabled people in Aotearoa with the goal of improving wellbeing through better data-informed decisions. Before we dive into the site, I want to quickly flag some accessibility information that might be of use for some of you. So the site does support viewing in high contrast and at high levels of zoom. And if you're a screen reader user, you should also be able to navigate the site using your screen reader. Now, as a developer, I'm not hugely experienced with some of the deeper screen reader usability, and we're going through processes of getting some audits and expertise and guidance on this. But I want to make really clear that we welcome and open any feedback. We're really committed to continuing to improve and make sure that all of our community is included and is able to access data. So there are several ways to navigate the site. You can open the menu on the top left-hand side, and that will give you a rundown of all of the areas of the site, from introductions to reports to all of the topics that you can explore. On the top right-hand side, you've also got a button that enables you to jump straight to the data. So if you're in a hurry or particularly enthusiastic, you can go straight there. But we'll start by scrolling down the page. So the site opens with a welcome to all of you and to anyone who is interested in this kaupapa. And it talks through that Aotearoa Disability Figures is about bringing together data, research and reports for disabled people in Aotearoa so that you can access reputable information to support the work that you do. It's really important to note that we're not collectors of data. So we're not going out and doing surveys. Our goal is to find all of the disparate data that's being collected by all of the people who are government agencies or who are doing mahi in the space, and gathering it all together in one place and making sure it's standardized, it's machine readable, it's in simple to find charts, it's searchable, so that you don't need to know which of the 100 or so government agencies collected data in order to find and use it. So we're really about lowering that barrier to access and making it as easy as possible so that you're not wasting time going about lots and lots of different places in order to get information that helps you to do the work that you really value. So carrying on further down the page, this section introduces the incredible essay that Sam and Phoebe, who Ngāpere mentioned earlier, have written for us. We want to acknowledge that there has been a long and fraught history of data for our disabled community in Aotearoa, and we're really grateful to them lending their expertise and writing us an introduction to the history, the core issues, and we've got a new section that's coming soon that looks to the future of why this is important. So I've just brought up a preview of that on the screen, and we'd encourage you to read that if you have a moment. So going back to the main page, as you continue to scroll down, you've got two options to explore further in the site. The first is that you can look at topics and then find charts and data that is of interest to you. The second, which I'll actually dive into first, is that you can explore reports and presentations. And I'll click on that to open it up. And on this page, you can find reports that have been written by experts in this space on topics ranging from disability strategy, including our New Zealand disability strategy, progress in monitoring, disability data, and then deeper topics like life in Aotearoa and statistics and reports that describe that, education, well-being, and more. If you are doing mahi in the space and you know of a great report that we haven't included here, let us know. We are constantly adding new and amazing information. We know that data is one part of driving towards a better future, but the other part is stories and analysis and expertise and the lived experience of our community. So it's really important that we view those things together so that we can drive towards that better future. So the second area, which I mentioned before, is exploring charts and topics. So we, as many of you know, there's some pretty big gaps in disability data. However, when we started researching this project, we were actually really delighted to find that we could make 1,600 charts from 100 different tables of disability data. There's been some really big improvements in the last couple of years particularly, but we also want to acknowledge that there's a long way to go. We think that creating more visibility over what's available also helps create more awareness of where the gaps are so that we can all advocate together for those gaps to be filled. And I know that that's really important to Stats.NZ, and we've talked to lots of the teams there, asking them to really consider things like making sure that there is data available that looks at the intersections between disability and ethnicity and poverty and age and gender and all of those other issues, because our identities are not just in one silo, and it's really important that we can explore data that really reflects the experience that we have in the world. So scrolling down a bit further, this is where we get to the interesting stuff. This is the data. So we've, in order to make it easier to find the data, we've taken a look at the breadth of data we could find and grouped it roughly into topics that we think will make it easier for you to navigate and see in what is available. So we've got population demographics, children, data for disabled Māori, education, employment, income, financial supports and benefits, housing, health, well-being, environment, technology and access, government spending, and the last two at the bottom, trade linked to disability and industries linked to disability. And if you're wondering why those ones are down the bottom, that's because we really care about making sure that the data that we are making easy to access centres the fact that disability is not a medical problem. As Paula said, it's a social model of disability. And so we believe that when you're looking for data as a disabled person about disability, that it's really important for us to try and prioritise data that is about disabled people and our experiences above data that reinforces that deficit or medical model of disability. So I'm going to pick one of the topics. In fact, maybe I'll pick health because we were just talking about medical models. So if you click through, this will take you through to a live search on the Figure.NZ site. The reason I emphasize that is because we are adding and updating data all the time. So this isn't a static list of data sets. This will be added to and improved and updated whenever we can find new data or new releases of data. So this takes you through to a page with a lot of search results that match the terms of disability and health. And as you can see, there is data ranging from things like rating of oral health and trust for the health system. Let's open this one to have a look. This chart is adults who experienced one or more types of unmet need for primary health care. And it's broken down by gender or disability. So when you click one of those thumbnails, that will take you through to a detailed page where you can explore the data further. By default, it will open on the chart page. However, the data is also available in table form, and if you're a screen reader user, it will take you through and direct you to that tabular data first so that you are able to easily access it. We hope in the future to do more work on the chart images themselves to make them even more accessible for screen reader users also. So you'll be able to then come down and download the chart or the data itself so that you can take and use it. Below the chart or the table, you will find a whole lot of metadata, and this breaks down how it was calculated, any data treatments, any definitions that might help, who collected the data, when it was released, and any other information we can find that we think will help you to understand how to take and use this data. And you can then return, obviously, back to the search and explore further, or if you would like to explore another topic, you can go back to the hub as well at the top of the page with the banner. So that's a brief overview of how the site works. And we really welcome your feedback on any improvement, and we'd love to hear stories about times that you have found data useful or times that you have wished that there was more information available. We will open up for questions on the site. Now, Peter, do you want to do that now or after Anton has spoken?
Great idea. Could you just quickly show everybody how they could download or share a chart if they wanted to put it in a funding application or share it online? That would be.
I can absolutely do that. So let's say you want children who are aged 5 to 14 who receive disability support services funding. You just click the download button and you can choose either data, which will give you the table of data so that you can take it and pull the numbers out, or you can choose chart and that will give you an image of the chart that's formatted for you to put into your reports or share on social media or anywhere else you wanted to share.
Awesome, thank you. You can also click the chart link up the top if you wanted to share it in a post or text it to someone, which I always do. I often do. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? We'd like to open up the Zoom floor for any part-time.
Yeah, I do. So my name is Ngozi, and I'm African, but we are grouped into the Mila category. So which is really not easy to gather or to collect data on or to find data about the community. So I'm just keen, I have shared a question in the chat column, but I'm just keen to know how this data will be presented for this particular classification, given that it's really a challenge to gather this information from Stats New Zealand. I'd be keen to hear from you how you intend to show the data on this Mila ethnicity classification.
Yeah, I think the Mila is the Middle Eastern.
It is, yes. Yes. So any of the data that we're able to access, we present in a similar fashion in terms of in charts and tables. But I think the heart of your question is really the lack of availability of data about people who fall in that Middle Eastern, Latin American and African categorization. And you're absolutely right, there is a huge lack of information for that categorization. Our hope is that over time, as StatsNZ and other government agencies continue on their own kaupapa to collect and release more of this data, that we will be able to publish more of it. And I really hope that improves in the future. But you're correct that at the moment there is a real lack of data for people who have disability who are part of that community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any other questions? yes, and a great reminder from Angela in the chat that if you are taking or using a chart in your reports, it's really important to add an image description so that our community members who are blind or low vision are able to access the information as well.
Joanne's asked a question in the chats, Nat, around how does IDI fit into this?
That's a great question. Maybe our friends at Stats.NZ would like to comment on disability data in the IDI.
Thanks for the question. So look, at one level, these are quite separate in that this is a presentation, this is a way of presenting all of the various data in individual data sets that we have or different combinations of the data sets. This doesn't draw from the IDI, so the IDI is still a work in progress for us to build more and more disability data in as we get it. So we're trying to make more data available through platforms like this. We are also trying to add more and more disability data or data about different types of people with disabilities, and to the point made around the MILA classification into the IDI as we have it. And so we play a role called Government Chief Data Steward, which is about trying to lead all of the government agencies that work with data to provide high quality data and more granular data and so forth. So basically, probably what I can say about the IDI is gradually we are building the building data sets into the IDI as it becomes available. We've got a work program more generally, though, about trying to understand where are the priority data gaps. We've got a thing called the Data Investment Program, which is about trying to understand where are the data gaps across government and how do you fill them. So the plain English answer, I think, is we'll fill them gradually as we can and add them into the IDI as we can.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions? I know there's just so much to look at when you go into the site, but we're happy to take any more questions if anybody has any.
Somebody had a comment, Joanne, that it would be good to see a category on justice. Thank you for that feedback. I will go and look into that as soon as we jump off the call to see what data that we can find. The data that we publish is all data that's been publicly released under Creative Commons licensing, because we believe it's important for people to be able to reuse it without having to go and seek permission. So it's possible that it's that we couldn't find any with that, but I will double check and investigate it. I know as part of this, we have got some new data released, like the 111 text usage data, which obviously isn't justice, but we will absolutely follow that up and see if we can find any. Seeing if we had any other questions, just scrolling back through the chat. I think that might be all of the questions for now. Ngāpiri, I'll pass back to you to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Nat, for that. Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really humbled and by all the wonderful comments in the comment section. Thank you, everybody. We're just really excited to share this. We've been sitting on this for quite some time, but as you know, there's always more work to do, and kind of Nat's been busily working on the accessibility part on the back end, which is a lot of work. So thank you, Nat. Just so you know, we are going to be offering free workshops and free webinars to everybody who is interested in using this platform. But before that, I would just like to introduce our data officer, Anton Salmons, who many of you will know in the community from DPO, and we have the pleasure of working full-time with him. And he's been diligently finding and publishing disability data for the last few years to make it available for you all. And I would love for Anton to give us some closing words. Kia ora, Anton.
Okay. Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Anton Salmons. I'm one of the data officers here at Figure.NZ. I'm also, as was mentioned, involved in the disability community. I'm involved in Deaf Aotearoa's executive board and a part of the DPO coalition. Both organisations are involved in advocacy. It's exciting to be part of this launch of the new aspect of Figure.NZ's work. This reminds me of a story behind the Guinness Book of World Records. The original authors were having a debate about a particular record, And they couldn't find the answer easily. So they created the Guinness Book of Records to compile records. Now that is data. Now we're seeing data cited in everyday conversation, whether it be politics or sports statistics. Because in today's world, data is more prevalent than ever, with so much opportunity for data mining with digital tools and availability with the internet. It's just exploded. Everyday decision-making is being decided with data, whether it be going out for a picnic, checking the weather forecast, serious policy decision-making. Data is really important. Sometimes, though, the lack of data can have serious long-term ramifications. And unfortunately, disabled people have been marginalised for a long time for that very reason. The lack of data, whether it be data availability or data inaccessibility. So either way, there are ramifications. So making Aotearoa disability figures is only one step, but it's an important step in making data usable. And through the progressing work of my work colleagues, Nat and Nigel, accessible as well to everyone. We want disabled people to see and use data to make change, to be part of the conversation, and to help them identify what is needed. So data tables, graphs, they're only numbers. We humans are the ones who make the interpretations of that data and the data sets, which is why it's really important to add context to them. And that validates the famous catchphrase that the disability uses, the disability catchphrase that is often used is nothing about us without us. It's about including disabled people in the conversation, because data can actually be misinterpreted and interpreted in various ways. Context is really important. And that's why it's important for data to be provided to the disabled community so they can be a part of reading it, interpreting it, and providing Aotearoa their stories of their disabled community or disability community. That's part of Figure.NZ's mission, is to get the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand, using data to thrive. That includes the disability community, and it comes at a rather important time. A quote from the Honourable Minister Little stated last year, and he said, "If you are disabled, well, we don't even know what's happening with you because we don't gather enough information." End of quote. An important acknowledgement, and I know the government is working through trying to improve data collection of disability community. And we look forward to Figure.NZ supporting Stats New Zealand and other government departments in providing more disability data in accessible and usable formats on our Aotearoa disability figures. And this will enable disabled community to tell their stories with data. Aotearoa disability figures is an ongoing piece of work, and we hope that you'll be sharing the tool with the disability community. To spread the tool, to encourage disabled people to learn more about their own community, and even helping with supporting their advocacy to make Aotearoa a better place for all of us. But as Figure.NZ realised earlier on, just giving data to the community is not enough. Communities also need tools to understand data. So if it would help your team or your organisation, we're really happy to do a free follow-up session to walk through Aotearoa disability figures, some of the data available, and talk about understanding and using disability data. So if you think it would be useful, please get in touch with Ngā Pera. Thank you.
Ngā mihi, Anton, and thank you so much to our wonderful interpreter there today. Wow, we are nearly at the end of our session today, and I just wanted to really thank you all for those of you who've given your time today. We know you're all very busy. And thank you, Anton. It's just been wonderful having our team so passionately work on this kaupapa. So just to close, as a nation, we should all care about quality disability data. because it's not, as Anton mentioned, it's not just about numbers on a graph. He tangata, it's about people. And so right at this very moment in the pandemic, it's our families and friends within the disabled community who are getting sick and being disproportionately harmed by this pandemic. And I know that yesterday's news, including lifting some of the COVID-19 mandates and protections, will be front of mind for many. We stand with you, and this is part of the reason we felt it necessary to launch Aotearoa disability figures at this critical time. When the data has a face and a name, it really hits differently, and it's pretty hard to ignore. So we hope that access to this tool can help make that connection between the numbers and the real lived experience of the disabled community. And it can be another tool in your kete for supporting your ongoing advocacy. I think the pandemic should also serve as a reminder to us, those of us in the data space who are not from disabled or marginalised communities, that access to many different kinds of data is really important, because we just never know what data will be needed when the world changes suddenly. We may be a team of 5 million, but we are certainly not a one-size-fits-all society. And this is why access to data, in this case disability data, is just so important. And it has to be done with the communities in mind. Okay, so as Anton mentioned, but access to data and knowing what to do with it or how it might be used to achieve these goals are two different things. So we recognise in this space that we can offer this tool, but it's ultimately up to the communities and how they use it, or how it might be able to amplify and support your stories and your mahi. So that's why we are offering free workshops and webinars to people and organisations who might like to delve a little deeper and ask more questions. And you can get what you and your teams need from it, because everybody's needs are so different. So we can do these workshops online, and hopefully we're going to be traveling around the country with a data roadshow, so we can actually get out into communities, get the kanohi face to face, and meet with and just give people an opportunity to ask questions, work through some of the data, and really at a simple level, just teach people simple tools about how to find and use data that might be relevant to them. So if you'd like to join one of these workshops or request a tailored workshop for your organisation, please you can contact any of us through the Figure.NZ website. You can email me directly, ngapera@figure.nz. But we're going to be putting this out on social media so that we can more people can have access. And we'll be really happy to assist and talk with you all. So tēnā koutou, thank you all for your time today. Thank you all for your contributions, and also for your just incredible work out there advocating for better human rights and for equality for all. So thank you, everybody. Ngā mihi, have a wonderful day, stay safe, and we hope to see you all again soon. Tēnā koutou.